Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, as Flavien just said, I'm Lucie. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at Animoca Brands and the moderator on today's panel, where we are going to discuss marketing, community, and intellectual property insights in the context of Web3 gaming. So, with me on stage, we have Sami, the co founder and CEO of Cross the Ages, PG, the head of gaming at Taiko, and Ilya, the head of marketing at Motorverse, who is also my colleague at Animoca Brands. So welcome to the three of you to this discussion. So to kickstart, can you please start by introducing yourselves and tell us in a few words what you are the most bullish about when it comes to the intersection of gaming with Web3 technology? Sami?
Please, bye.
Hello. So my name is Sami. Nice to meet you. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cross the Ages. We created the whole IP. So we start in end of 2020. We create a whole universe, a mix of fantasy and science fiction, with several games, with like a whole IP with like movie animation, merchandising, and everything around. For me, what is exciting, I come from the gaming industry. We are owner of many studios. We are publisher for Nintendo and Sony for more than 14 years now. And what is the most exciting in the Web3, it's the ownership first, the interoperability, and the fact that you really own your asset and you can create an experience where you can use your assets from one game to probably another game to maybe another experience. And this is why I'm here today, to talk about like all this challenge and all this field about like the gaming.
All right, that was a great intro. Hi everyone, my name is Piergiacomo, I go by PG, head of gaming at Taiko. Taiko is the first base roll-up. What that means is that our transactions are sequenced directly by Ethereum L1 validators, so we don't have a single sequencer like pretty much all the roll-ups out there. So kind of like following up the Ethereum decentralization ethos. We're a type 1 roll-up. I don't want to talk anymore about infra, so that was the only thing I'm going to say. The reason why I'm excited, definitely seconding what he was saying, and also I think one of the best use cases is like rewarding communities, and I think this is going to be a main topic of this discussion. Sharing revenues and like kind of like the upside with your gaming community. I think it's one of the great value added that like blockchains and Web3 can bring overall. So happy to unpack that on the panel.
And I'm excited to fight when the basket was done as well. What's your name?
Awesome. My name is Ilya. I'm head of marketing for Motorverse, just part of Animoca Brands. So I work closely with Lucie. So really happy to talk to you guys about our project. My background is actually deeply in Web 2. Prior to Web 3, I was at Google, Samsung, Huawei, a couple of startups, advisory roles. And so my latest role is at Animoca. And so the reason I joined was because I just love being at the sort of inflection point of new stuff happening. I see a lot of parallels when I joined Google and Android just was taking off with all the mobile apps and games 10 years, 12 years ago. And I see the same kind of energy and excitement and new opportunities with Web3 gaming right now. So what we do is we basically probably the biggest hub for racing games, motorsports, and digital vehicles in Web3 right now. And our goal is basically a kind of a long-term vision is to be the interoperability layer for digital vehicles for Web3 or Metaverse in the future. And sort of like a launchpad also for bringing big Web2 automotive and motorsport brands to Web3. And so what we are excited about is making all that interoperable, starting with our own games, but we are developing, or almost finished developing, interoperability standards that any Web3 studio or Web2 can adopt and actually bring our cars and bikes to their games and their worlds, virtual worlds. And so what excites me is the interoperability piece, and we're actually working on a first collection, which for one car it's probably the world's first interoperable car that will be playable in 2 of our games. Also in our hub, our garage, and then the vehicle manufacturer garage. And it's a big brand in the automotive world. So hopefully you guys will be excited about it. You can check it out on motorverse.com to learn more. And then the ownership is it's basically taking all those assets outside of the games and actually creating value around them, cross games and in real world. So
Thank you.
to talk more
Thanks,
about it.
Ilya. Thanks, everyone. So let's dive right in and start talking about marketing for games. So our first question is around the challenges that marketeers can face while promoting blockchain gaming to compared to traditional games. Can you tell us a bit more about your insights on this topic?
Here we go. One of the first big challenge is skepticism. The big problem we have, with a Web2 player, is like they don't believe that Web3 is sustainable, and like they're right. This is a reality, most of the projects, disappear. Many projects are scam. Many projects are Ponzi. And to be able, to get the confidence, by the player from Web2, it's very important, to have like use case on Web3 where you can say, okay, this is working. I'm not talking about what's happened on the past, but like how it's difficult to go in, the Web3. For example, any kind of game when you need to have a wallet to create the bridge, one of the main challenge is to do it invisible. Imagine that you play to a game, you never feel that you have any kind of wallet, and like it's instant. You just play to the game. And one of the other parts to be quick, it's regulatory. The big problem, big challenge for us, European and French, it's the law. And like this is a really big problem for us, and it's moving and changing. So we try, to find the best way to being able to be on the case and being sustainable for the long term. We don't know exactly what's gonna happen, but like this is one of the other challenge we have today.
Yeah, I want to add to that I think another big issue overall is to kind of like more than marketing to the audience, also marketing to developers, especially indie devs like game developers are still very skeptical. Like a lot of these people build games out of passion, so when it comes to like crypto games, they're like again skeptical because of rugs, UX problems. Just launching a token is a nightmare if you just want to build like a cool, awesome experience for your community. So that's definitely a problem. When it comes to users, I think we have an advantage actually as blockchains, especially if you're if you're a small game wants to get off your feet. When you choose a protocol to build on, you kind of inherit their community. So with Taiko, for example, we have like 600,000 people plugged into like our Trailblazers program, which is kind of like our incentive program that we launched with Mainnet. So if you're a game and like you're launching on Taiko, you kind of inherit that community, which I think is a big plus. Because that's a way you can market right away to the best user that you can possibly have, because we're talking about people that are using both crypto products and games. And once you validate that, once you're able to retain those users, then the next question is like, how do you scale up, right? I think that's still a missing piece as an industry overall that we kind of like have to figure out, like how do we get to like the 100 million users that like traditional like Web2 IPs have, but that will come with time. I don't think we should rush it, also because there's a lot of validation that we still need to do on our end as an industry before we can get in front of that type of audience, like the wallet issues, the Ponzinomics. Tokens are a good thing. It's one of the best use cases that this industry has delivered, but it has to be done right. Like 90% of the tokens out there are just crap, and not necessarily because like people are like malicious. It's just like bad tokenomics, bad design. So once we nail that as an industry, and it takes time, then we're ready to go to take the next step. And the last thing I want to say is also like it's risky to get like big Web2 players in this industry, and I would actually argue that the ones that are like beyond just gaming, but the ones that actually like tried things in Web3, they rocked us. Like Taiko is very close to like the loopring community that was very close with GameStop. GameStop literally racked loopring. Like that's not good. So we also we want to be cautious of like who we partner with because our industry is like precious. Like we build something that is very valuable. So we don't have to like just rush for a bunch of money at these people because if they're not fully aligned with what we're building, then we're doing our own thing and it's good. Like we just need to scale it properly.
Ilya, do you want to add on to the challenges or perhaps share a bit about some successful marketing strategies that you may have seen like to promote some of the Motorverse games?
Yeah, so for challenges, and of course there are a lot of opportunities. For challenges, I would say there are two that are top of mind for me. So one is unique to us, and one is, I think, fundamental to Web3. And the unique one is, for us, we're actually talking to three target audiences. One is, crypto Web3. The other one is gamers, Web3 and Web2, because we have also Web2 games that we bring to Web3. And then there's a IRL audience for motorsports. So we actually, physically show up at like Grand Prix races for like MotoGP, Formula Drift, and Formula E. So these are official licenses that we have for our games. So we collaborate a lot with those franchises, and it's a balancing act. So how do you talk to all these different audiences? Because obviously Web3 crypto is very different from gamers and IRL. So when we launch a new game, it's there's a lot around go-to-market planning related to all these different channels and different styles of communication, which is challenging and exciting at the same time. But the fundamental one, I think, is, and I've heard a lot of content creators talk about it, is the tech stack, especially lower funnel acquisition and retention tooling, which is non-existent or quite immature. So we've tried several tools, and I'm happy to talk to other people who have the same experience. But it's very hard to stitch together. So there's no real acquisition tool similar to like AppsFlyer in the mobile world or the web world that has deep integrations with Web3 CRM systems. So it's very hard to kind of map out the full funnel, like the full user journey, and actually make attribution and actually calculate acquisition costs and to make a business case, come up with LTV. So that's kind of my biggest problem right now. But happy to discuss with people who are more knowledgeable in Web3 about this.
Sami, you spoke about like skepticism. Do you have like examples of perhaps marketing strategies that help you like to overcome the skeptical gamers? And can you share about this?
Absolutely. First of all, we last year in December we organized the first era like real tournament, for esport competition, and we do that like in Marseille, south of France. 2,200 people come. Come on, like it's 2,200 real human, come to this event, and we organize the second event this from the 30 November to the 1st December, and we expect 4,000 people. So like this is one of the first step, to bring people and to show them that it's real. We really exist, and like people community, and we have like some of them today here, can come and like you completely change, the world where like you have like just a pseudo on Telegram and you see the real people and you created the link. The second one, it's we onboard 130 international artists, people coming from the team of Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Marvel, DC Comics, League of Legends, and all these huge brands. But how did you do that? In fact, in 2021, we convinced Rob, it's one of the biggest international artists, to made like one design for Cross the Ages. He said, no, I will never do that for you. However, we helped him, with the NFT and explained him how, he can be like successful. And from that, we made like this huge collaboration. And the last one, it's a few months ago, like 2 months ago, we start like a collaboration with Ubisoft. So Cross the Ages is backed by 5 gaming publishers, including Square Enix, Ubisoft, Animoca also. Okay. And we made like a crossover with a movie animation of Watchdog X Cross the Ages, and this is bringing a lot of value, a lot of people coming from this IP, this amazing IP franchise with Watchdog. And this is how you can create it like a bridge and being able with marketing tools to grab and bring a lot of people. That's it.
Very well. So you've already mentioned it a little bit, but usually when we speak about Web3 marketing, we have to talk about community building and community engagement. So PG, you told us a bit about the gaming ecosystem on Taiko and the fact that when games are onboarded to your ecosystem, they benefit from a shared community. So perhaps expanding on this, how crucial do you believe community engagement is to the success of Web3 gaming projects?
Oh, it's imperative, and also for blockchains themselves. This industry is community is everything. Then of course there's different shades of what a quality community is. You have the hardcore believers, the tech savvy people. You have the airdrop farmers, the rent seekers. They're just gonna come and go. It's all game. It's as long as people are sticking around and the ecosystem is growing. So for Taiko, what I said in the beginning, our technological approach actually matters for scaling Ethereum, but we're just surrounded by you guys have been here for a couple of days, how many L2s and infra stuff you've heard about. There's so much to be. So building a strong community is actually very important. We did that. We grew it to over 1 million people on Discord, and that translated as we launched mainnet into actual mainnet users. Now we're running this Trailblazers program. It's we allocated 10% of total supply to it. We run it in season, and we're gamifying it. So users that use different ecosystem applications, they can earn experience points and level up. And it's kind of gamifying the ecosystem is also a way to retain people. We see in Discord people talking to each other. Oh, how can I get more points? Can you suggest me what game to play? Where can I stake? These type of things. As long as you get that social engagement, you're winning. And that's why gaming is so important for crypto, because gaming brings that social aspect. People like to play also to have fun. I'm repping one of the games that we have on Taiko. It's called Crack and Stack. It's no AAA, big fancy. It's just very fun game. You play for 2 minutes. You're in a mine. You gotta mine some ore that gives you ETH, and then you have a bag. You gotta escape from other people that try to kill you, goblin. And we've seen a lot of people that are really enjoying it because they can get rewarded. They love it because it's fun, and they talk about it. So these are kind of the 3 key ingredients in my opinion to build a solid game and a solid community at the same time, which are kind of very intrinsic when bounded together.
Sami and Ilya, do you share the same perspective, perhaps on the strategies to build a robust community?
I think that's one of the main point on the Web3. It's the community. Since I come from the Web 2, when you build a game on the Web 2, you don't care about the feeling of the gamer. You created your game, you release the game, and you just see what's gonna happen. And the Web 3 is completely different. The player investor. So they are close to you, like him, and you say, yes, but you have to do that. It's and now this is not good, So it's complicated, to have the good way, to do it, but it's crucial. Because you player are not player, they are player, investor, ambassador. And since you accept that they are ambassador, they can completely change, the vision of your project. If you really want that the project explode, you have to be sure that your community is behind you, whatever was gonna happen. And when you have a solid, community, you can do, I think, whatever you want, The question is, are you able to keep it? And how long are you gonna be able to keep it? Because people don't, stay, for years, usually. They gonna be boring and they'll say, okay, it's good, but no, okay, stop. So you have to find the good way and the best way, to keep your community. This is the one I believe.
And so I would answer that actually reminded me, one of the other big challenges in Web3 is that there are no real life, proper games. There's a lot of farming games, which are mostly kind of arcade, clickbait. And that's what resonates with this initial gaming audience. But ultimately, we want to get to a point where we have legitimate games with proper engagement loop. And so we're also in this initial stage, and a couple of games that we have high hopes for, they'll be launched either in Q4 this year or Q1 next year. So it's definitely a challenge. But what we're trying to do in the meantime is kind of create excitement and kind of hype in anticipation of the full games, having open betas available as most of the other projects, and also kind of to bridge this to community and kind of successful recent cases. So what we've tried to do, for instance, we've tried to leverage our sponsorship for MotoGP, and so MotoGP is like the F1 of bike racing, so the second largest watched sport in the world, next to Formula One, with 10 million viewers every weekend of the race. So we have official gaming license. We have the biggest MotoGP game available on mobile, which we're bridging to our token, the REF token, so bringing it to Web3. But what we're also experimenting is how else we can leverage this relationship and this asset out of the game experience. And so what we've done, and this is probably also kind of world's first, we've created fractional sponsorship. So based on NFTs for one of the top MotoGP racing teams called Gresini Racing. So we have our own sponsorship with them, but what we've done is fractionalize and create micro sponsorships. So micro packages starting from 150 euros to 10,000 euros that give owners different types of rewards, from like merch branded with Gresini with their own name, their fan number, all the way to a race pass, paddock experience, like hospitality with the riders, that kind of stuff. And it's actually taking off pretty well. And you can imagine it's easily scalable to more teams in MotoGP or other sports. And so we kind of want to push boundaries in this area and maybe bring it to like fractionalized vehicles, ownership, in real world, bridge to digital ownership. And so what's really exciting is that we're actually managing to capture the interest of the MotoGP community, like MotoGP audience that has no idea about NFTs or blockchain. And we're actually not saying this is based on blockchain. We're just saying it's a micro sponsorship, which is possible because of new technology. And they don't really care what the tech is behind it. So this is really cool. This kind of is our North Star. So capturing the attention of Web3, obviously, this is important, for the token economy and all that. But ultimately bringing this, real-world audience to this digital space.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights on marketing, community building. I think we all understand that it's quite challenging still, to build a strong community around blockchain games. But now we'll move on to the third topic of our panel discussion, which is intellectual property, right? Because we haven't touched on that yet. So Sami, across the ages, actually has become an IP in itself, right? With derived products on merch and books, for instance. Ilya, you told us a bit about the MotoGP integration in the game, so I'm aware that you're working with a lot of different brands and bringing them to Web3. So on the intellectual property topic, can you tell us a bit more? How does the concept of IP ownership evolve in a decentralized blockchain-based environment? And PG, of course, feel free to chime in as well.
Here we go. First of all, the key on gaming is to create an emotion. And IP created emotion. How? When we start across the ages, the idea was to convince writers, 7, to work together to create the IP. We start with a book, digital book with more than 1 million downloads, and now it's physical book. First book was released in April, second book will be released in October, the third book will be released next year. And how this makes sense? It's because you created a link and you created something emotional. If you take every IP, Harry Potter, Pokemon, whatever the IP, League of Legends, you have always a good feeling and you have the smile when I talk about like one character that you like. This is the same, for the Web3. What we need to do and what we made, on the past is to create a link where player can own character. That means that, starting, with a trading card game is one of the best model of application because you have character, on every IP, and like people can own character that they like, and you created a high feeling emotional. So this is how people can trade card, created like all this link and buying, selling, the assets. And for us, it was the first step. And then you can create it and continue with other gaming experience. What we sure is you never will success at the beginning because when you start like an IP, you're gonna create several experience. But like this is a way to how you're using an IP and how created a link with your community.
Yeah, I agree. I guess like sharing the upside with your community is key, as we were saying before. Like they're like lead users, they're the first users that can influence like what you're doing. I think that's super powerful, and it's in the in the spirit of this industry, like build like in public open source, which is actually another good point because like traditionally Web2 games are like as close source as possible. Like people are building these like these IPs and like they don't share it as opposed to like our industry where like a lot is like built in the open. So finding the like sweet spot, like what is on chain probably should be like open source or at least like viewable and auditable by everybody because there's like monetary value attached to it. Whereas like what you're building on like the IP side, the lore, like like how you're building the game is probably something you want to keep for yourself as a game developer. So like finding that sweet spot, I think it's another key element of it.
Yeah, so I think for us it's not so much about creating new IP, but about leveraging other major IPs in the real world. So it's also like an interesting, might be sort of like a blueprint for how Web3 projects can work with big web, traditional media brands, entertainment brands. And so I think for us, what we want to do, we want to help ultimately Web3 with bringing, real world vehicle, car brands, bike brands, motorsport IPs. And so one of the things we're doing, we're actually, when we make a partnership with a big automotive brand, can be a mass market brand like Toyota and Honda, which we already have in one of our games, which is all around drift racing. There will be more brands, so specifically for our upcoming mint, like I said, the first interoperable car. So this will be a very special brand to Web3 community. But so what we want to do, we want to create a centralized licensing in such a way that these interoperable cars can actually move across different projects without those projects needing to make additional licensing deals, which could be, if we can make it happen, would be revolutionary. Because a lot of the current racing games that are out there, like Wild the World or partly racing, Icon X and so on, they have no licensed cars and no actual vehicle designs from real world because of those licenses. And that is a big problem also in the gaming, like traditional Web2 gaming space as well. Like Forza, one of the Forza games is shutting down because of that. So we're trying to redefine how this licensing deals are done, and hopefully like make it accessible to other projects in Web3. And so the important thing to say here is that you don't need to be actually a racing game title. You can be just an open world game, but have cars, not necessarily even moving around. They can be just like placed in a showroom or on the street as a showpiece. So that's how we would like start building and inviting more projects to collaborate with us. So really happy for you guys to reach out if you're interested.
Thanks for the teasing, Ilya, on the upcoming mint. So we are almost at the end of our discussion. So perhaps like as a closing note, can you tell us like in one sentence, like one trend you're looking out for in blockchain gaming?
One sentence.
One sentence, please.
Real world asset.
It's good.
It's not even a sentence.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with like kind of like the mass right now is like Telegram games. I think they're super hot. I'm playing them, so they're fun. So and mobile overall.
Okay, Ilya?
Yeah, interoperability. I think we're gonna make it happen. I don't think it's been implemented effectively yet, but we want to show the way. So that's what excites me for sure.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Let's use and like the cool stuff.
Oh, we're a blockchain on our own. So Taiko is an L2. It's a type 1, so fully Ethereum equivalent. So we have like games building on top of Taiko. Not sure about. Yeah.
Immutable and Polygon. And Polygon, yeah.
Yeah, Polygon, 2 games on float, and we're bringing 1 game to Solana.
Any
now.
other questions? Maybe from the audience?
It's free.
But I not anything.
We're late. Okay, it's not free anymore.
Great. Oh, one more.
All this. I really big see.
I was a big fan of Magic the Gathering.
I'm a huge fan of Magic the Gathering. I started in 1993 and I never stopped.
Oh, okay. I have stopped. I have 10,000 cards, all the colors. I think, sorry if being rude, maybe,
You can.
my opinion. Don't you think your big pack of 350 euros, I think? So something like that. I mean, it was a music. It's a big pack.
500. Even more.
With all that war with Russia, Ukraine, don't you think the people have no money anymore for I want you freaking years. Maybe I can give them half.
No. It's even better. So when they start, with like this funny guy behind you, because like he missed the first mint, and you used to have a pack for $10. Now it's $6,000 to $10,000. You know, the pack for those pack, and the pack that you say like the big pack is just going up. However, the game is completely free to play. You don't have to put no money inside. You can download it, you know, at App Store and Play Store, and like discover the game. And what I say to everyone, don't put nothing in Cross the Ages. Just discover the game. You will see by yourself. You can earn cards, but with no money. Good, no? What do you think? I convince you?
Yeah.
Ah, cool. One more user.
You got one user.
Thank you.
Real acquisition right there.
Real user acquisition.
It's perfect. Here you go. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for our panel.
Thank you, Lucie.
Thank you guys.
A round of applause.